starting the recording. Welcome everyone to CSEdX. This is day 2 and it's session 1.4. Thanks for joining us, and it's great to have you in the session. We've got a range of presenters today, and there'll be 10-minute presentations, and then we'll have a whole group Q&A at the end of the session. The session is being recorded and Mark has started the recording. And so could we please have all mics turned off until it's your time to present or ask a question. The chat function is active, so if you've got any questions as they come to mind, please ask those in the chat. We can come back to those at the end of the session as well. Before we move on, though, I would just like to pay my respects to the First Nations elders past, present and emerging across the many lands where Charles Sturt University campuses, students and staff are located. In particular, I acknowledge the Wiradjuri, Ngunnawal, Gundungurra and Biripi peoples, and I also pay my respects to any First Nations colleagues in this session today. We've got 4 great presentations. I'm really looking forward to this session and hearing about your work. As Mark has indicated, the recording has started. There's a 10 minutes for each presentation, and Mark will give you a thumbs up when you've got 1 minute left to go. So it does require a little bit of keeping the eye on the screen of the people in the video as well. And I think he'll put a 1 minute in the chat if needs be. And we will cut off at that 10 minute mark. I think that's it from me at the moment. We'll come back we'll go through the presentations now and come back with questions at the end. And I think this is going to be a great session. So thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing and it's over to Lisa first up.
Thank you. And I shall just check that we are sharing.
Yep, got it.
Yep, terrific. And I'll just go from that you have full screen. We do. Terrific.
We're on the second one, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. I hope I'm not on a timer, but we'll just see how we go. So thank you for acknowledgement of country, and Michelle, on behalf of Michelle and I would like to acknowledge all First Nations and Torres Strait Islanders that are joining us today, and welcome everyone, and thank you for joining today. On behalf of Michelle, Lane and myself, welcome to our presentation on Reimagination, a regional career readiness collaboration. And I'll begin by just giving a quick overview of our introduction. So over 480 Bachelor of Nursing students will graduate from the 5 campuses and the online program in 2024, with numbers increasing in 2025. The graduate application process for nursing students is becoming more complex, especially in regional and rural areas. So after attending the CSEdX event in 2022, contact was made with the CSU Career and Skills Hub and with the wonderful Michelle Lane and myself begun our collaborative partnership in NRS 385, the Registered Nurse in Practice subject within the Bachelor of Nursing. And in 2023, the curriculum for career readiness among final year nursing students underwent a review, leading to further enhancements in 2024, and we've done further reviews and enhancements have taken place again this session in readiness for 2025, which Michelle will highlight further. So reasons for the collaboration began not only for subject content, but due to the complexities of the graduate program application for Bachelor of Nursing students and the need for specific applications for regional and rural graduates programs. Also due to feedback from stakeholders needing to make its way to the students and the application information needing a home. And as mentioned in the second row there on the left, we now have the situation where there's more graduates than graduate programs within nursing in Australia. So the competition is increasing for these positions. So I'll hand over to Michelle, who will expand further on the enhanced collaborations with Western New South Wales local health districts and student career readiness and outcomes.
Thank you. So basically what we were striving to do in 3 short points was connect with industry so that we could inform the resources and support that we gave to our nursing students, not just in this subject, but all nursing students, so that they could get the jobs that they want. And that's a very important point. It's not just getting a job, it's getting the job that they want. So what we looked at doing in terms of our objectives was making sure that we had the support for regional students during that job seeking process. And that support aligned with the New South Wales Health's Grad Start recruitment program. So we were very much tailoring the support we provided to industry and what they required of applicants. And the third objective was to focus on professional development and industry readiness for our students. So to make sure that that transition from student to employee, that they were on a really solid foundation and had robust resources. We were very mindful that not all of our nursing students are coming straight from school. A lot are already in the industry. So we had to have a package that suited both the university student from high school, the school leaver, and also those already in the industry, so to speak. And they were 2 separate sort of groups that we had to tailor our information and our package to. Thanks, Lisa. So here's how we went about it. As Lisa said, the first thing that was done was collaborating with industry for the review of curriculum. And that just meant that we had a really solid base from which to build the resources that we were going on to build. That everything that we were doing in the subject was informed by that real world practical experience and necessitated by the wants of industry. One more click, please, Lisa. So what we did was we came up with a package of specialised online sessions. And these sessions took students through the employment process that they would follow with Grad Start, the Grad Start program, but also that was a template for any employment process. It just so happened that this one was tailored to New South Wales Health. So what we did was we looked at selection criteria, resumes, interview prep, and importantly, the continued professional development packages, because they were identified by us and by industry as being those 4 areas where they really needed students to be on point in terms of matching with New South Wales Health and progressing in that employment process. What we did for those sessions, the content of those was informed by what I call 3 groups of experts: faculty, in terms of the technical knowledge and the qualification learnings, the careers team in terms of things like employability skills and preparation and readiness, and obviously industry, who gave us the insight into what they required in that very valuable real world scenario. So we developed those packages that all three groups were happy with and ran students through those. And it was a combination of information and practicality. So they had to develop their resume, they had to do mock interviews, and we took them through a plan for continued professional development. So there was knowledge and learnings, but also that practical element. The direct engagement with Western New South Wales local health district, here on referred to as Western because I've only got 10 minutes, Western Health really came to the fore for us and informed, as I said, all the resources that we were putting together. And that's where that regional reimagination comes in. It was specific, it was tailored to our students for regional roles, and they were really keen to do that. In fact, at times, they came to us saying, we want to do more, we'd like to do more, and that will happen when we move on to what we're doing next. One of the things I really liked was the real-time industry feedback integration. Because this process was a living, breathing entity, it meant that the careers team was meeting with Western Health for each stage of those process. So we would look at career selection criteria, and then we would feedback that insight directly to students in that real time. And my view of that is real time equals real value. And we did that through the entire process. So we looked at selection criteria informed by industry. Then we looked at resumes informed by industry. Interview prep, very, very important, informed by industry. As I said, also backed up by the careers sort of view of how to best tackle those sorts of employability issues as well. So the real-time feedback was a great asset to our students in this body of work, I think. The other thing that we focused on this year as a careers team was making sure that we were prepared for this staged process, which meant that as a team, we knew what stages were coming up, what the timeline was for students, what package of information that we were getting or developing from us in consultation with industry, and we worked it all the way through. It also bore out inaugural industry connection events. That was another one coming through that was wonderful in terms of spawning different things.
1 minute, Michelle and Lisa, thank you.
Okay, next one, Lisa, please.
Oh.
So the outcomes, I'll quickly go through those and say, we achieved everything we wanted to achieve in terms of this program. In terms of time, I'll just tell you that. We achieved what we wanted to achieve. And Lisa, can I get you to click twice and it'll tell us the best things about this program? If you know or take nothing away from this presentation, I'd like you to know this, that we had 20% of our nursing students access our careers and skills appointments directly as a result of this program. That meant they were being informed on their resumes and their interview preparations. And you can see that from 2022, when we had a baseline program that wasn't overly tailored, we've had a 200% increase in those appointments. So a lot of work for the careers team, but we all loved it because the value was really strong. Thank you, Lisa. Where to now? We're going to continue to give our students those moments of advantage by expanding this program, looking at including Victoria Health and other health areas across New South Wales so that we can take this program across to more students in our footprint. And make sure that we can try and grow the number of students from that 20% into a higher number for what we're doing.
That's just about time too, Michelle. Are we up to the last slide?
This is the last
Yep.
slide, and it's an important slide. It's not a brag slide, though I could see it probably looks like that. Our team always loves something, feedback from students where it's got exclamation marks, and we've got a lot of exclamation marks in our student feedback. The biggest point that I took away from a lot of feedback we all got was the one in the middle. This subject has set me up to apply for new jobs with confidence, and that's a baseline. Our students study with us, the majority of them, to get those employability roles. And through this project, we've made that easier for them. Their confidence and their content has been increased, and to have the result of the work we're doing equals better jobs for our students and the jobs they want to have. It was valuable and thoroughly enjoyable work, not just for Lisa and I, but for our whole careers team. And it will continue into 2025 when we expand it, hopefully into other areas. And that's me. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Michelle
Thank
and
you.
Lisa. I've got heaps of questions, but I have to wait until the end.
Thank you. I'll just stop sharing. There we go.
Thank you. Next, we have Andrea. Oh, there's very...
Sorry, I'm just trying to share.
I think we're good now.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, thank you. Andrea?
Great. So we're going to present on co-teaching with Aboriginal elders in the classroom and implementing Indigenous pedagogy in face-to-face teaching. Just a bit of background. We teach in the Bachelor of Health Sciences Mental Health course, and it is an Indigenous specific course, which means that all our students are Indigenous. The Bachelor of Health Sciences started about 30 years ago, and it was closely linked to an Aboriginal traineeship within New South Wales Health. However, this has expanded, and now we have trainees from Victoria Health and also students who are not trainees with any health service but still complete the degree. The course structure is basically online asynchronous teaching, but it does have compulsory intensives of 2 weeks, one in March and one in August, where we basically see students face-to-face on the Wagga campus, and we go through some of the more challenging aspects of the content. And this approach, I guess, is focused very much on Indigenous pedagogy. And this refers to a teaching method that incorporates Indigenous knowledge, perspectives, and cultural practices. It emphasizes holistic, experiential, and relational learning, often involving nature-based education, storytelling, and community engagement. The literature highlights several advantages of Indigenous pedagogy. Firstly, it aligns with the cultural backgrounds and experiences of our students, thereby making learning more meaningful and engaging. This approach also addresses the unique learning styles of our students, potentially improving their academic outcomes and, importantly, retention rates. Additionally, Indigenous pedagogy incorporates Indigenous knowledge, helping to preserve and promote Indigenous cultures and languages. By recognizing and valuing these diverse ways of knowing and learning, we can foster a more inclusive and equitable educational environment for our students. So the aim of this presentation is based on a pilot study that we delivered at the August intensive. And we would like to provide an overview of the interconnected nature of Indigenous pedagogy, ontology, epistemology, and axiology, and describe the process undertaken to work within an Indigenous framework to implement co-teaching in an intensive, and then analyze the experiences of the academics as well as the elders involved, and identify positive outcomes and challenges, and then discuss recommendations. So quickly, we have 5 academic staff, 2 of which are Indigenous and 3 who are non-Indigenous, and we had 5 elders contributing. The way it worked out is that we had 1 elder co-teaching in each classroom that we delivered, and they stayed throughout the intensive and they contributed to content. Post-intensive, we carried out a couple of yarns that were recorded and transcribed. One yarn was with the academic team and the other one was with elders. The questions in these yarns focused on experiences in the classroom, observations of student behavior, staff reflections, and discussion on challenges. The data was transcribed and analyzed, so non-Indigenous staff used the reflexive thematic analysis by Brown and Clark to analyze the data, and the Aboriginal academics used thematic analysis to analyze the same data. And I would now like to ask Kylie to speak to the Aboriginal perspectives of our findings.
So throughout our yarn in regards to what we noticed or, what we experienced in this very new teaching environment, we noticed that overall it was a positive experience to both the staff and the students. The students gave us so much positive feedback on having the elders around to yarn with, made the environment feel a lot more safer, and we found that there was more a balance between the academic staff, the students, and our elders. There was no kind of hierarchy of, the academics sit above the students, or, it's lot more balance. It showed us as First Nations staff and our communities that CSU is serious about valuing Aboriginal ways of knowing, being, doing, teaching and learning. And also highlighted the importance of story of our community and of our elders, and how that the clinical experience and the clinical knowledge that our students are learning along the way connects with that. Invites those that have lifted their community their entire lives to lift our learning and teaching community. So having our elders around with so much extensive knowledge and experience that they can teach us and learn with us, and allows for our students to see that it's very valuable. Reminds us all of the journey that we're on, so healing from the pain of the past and ensuring our old people are at the center of this, because that's how we learn. We learn from our elders, we learn from our stories and yarning, and we're a narrative culture, so it was incredibly valuable. And our elders teach in a way it's kind of akin to planting seeds. So anything that our elders tell us or teach us, it grows with us. We learn so much from them in that respect. And our elders build the knowledge and guide learning the right way. There are many intangible things that they bring to the classroom. So as I was saying before, that creating that safety and that sense of family promotes the intergenerational healing, brings love into our space, brings a deep sense of humility and the resilience of our story as Aboriginal people into the present, restores that balance where there might have been those power imbalances, and provides the deeper context, the connection and the understanding to complement the clinical knowledge. So not only are we learning in a westernized framework, but we've now got the culture that connects it and gives it such a deeper understanding, and allows for our students to go out into the community and be able to heal the transgenerational trauma that we've experienced.
Thank you, Kylie. So these are just the findings from the non-Aboriginal perspective. Overall, we also found that the experience was positive for both staff and students. We found that students were much more receptive to learning. So they appeared to be a lot more interested in asking questions, not just of the academics, but of the elders. And the learning space became a safe space. I almost want to kind of quote the castle here. It's the vibe of it, because it really was the whole feel of the room was so different. It also, what we found was that having elders co-teach legitimizes the course content, and it gave students additional meaning to the content. It humanized it to a large extent and kind of grounded it into real experiences. There are also certain things that only elders can say, and Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal academics aren't able to share some of these things. So having elders there, it gives students information that they otherwise wouldn't have received. We also found that elders bring a deep sense of spirituality, responsibility, and humility into the learning space. And this transferred over to the students. And overall, it increased understanding of Aboriginal ontology and epistemology and axiology, where relationships are primary. And it was amazing to see firsthand the way the relationships were so important and how the relationships were used to transfer knowledge.
We've got 1 minute. Thank you, Andrea.
Yep. So now I'm just going to have Auntie Mary talk about the perspectives of the elders.
I'll try and do it in 1 minute, but I'll be able to say, Yuridimaranga, I'm Marnie Mary Atkinson. I was much honoured to be a part of this intensive learning area. We are a caring, sharing culture, us as people and as elders. We know what it's like to ground ourselves on country. We need to bring our students back to, we have people living and working off country everywhere. All of Australia is sacred country, and we need to bring that sacredness into the organisations. And we have learnt on this country of knowing, being and doing for thousands and thousands of years, but we need that people to talk about our culture as well. It's a learning journey together. And we wanted to come together and ground our people, ground our young ones, and let them know why they are here, what calls them here to this place, to help heal our communities and our families because it's such a tricky subject, our mental health and well-being. We have always had that, and we need to connect to each other, connect to our culture, and we do that by sharing with each other. And it's all about that deep listening, that understanding. We call it Yinjamara. Some people call it Dadiri, which is to connect, to listen, to have deep listening of each other, of country. But it was a great learning experience for all of us, and to be able to work with the non-Indigenous people in academia, as well as, like, I was thinking, what would they want to know from me? But for us as people, we get our knowledge and our learnings from our elders. They are our first teachers throughout society in our cultural ways. So, we need this for our young ones to be able to help heal our communities, to know you can't be what you can't see, so I don't know. Thanks.
Thank you. And Reese is very quickly going to go through the challenges and learnings. Reese?
Helps when you unmute. I can do a really brief yarn about our challenges and what we're looking forward to in the future in regard to this piece of work that is much more than work for us, and I can give this a little bit more time in question time if that's more suitable, team.
Thanks.
And that's just the quick learnings and future plans, I guess, how we can integrate it on an ongoing basis, not just for us, but perhaps at looking at interdisciplinary opportunities.
Absolutely. We really need to think about how we make this business as usual, I guess, in our way of working, and not kind of add-on activity or something that's extra into our ways of working, learning, teaching. So yeah, we can talk about that in a little while if anyone would like to hear a little bit more.
Sure. I think that actually we could have had a whole morning for this particular topic and presentation. Thank you very much, Andrea and Reese and Kylie and Auntie Mary. And I'm sure there's going to be some questions coming your way at the when we have our Q&A session.
Thank you.
It's lovely to have you here, Auntie Mary. Thank you for sharing. Kirsty, I think we've got Kirsty up next.
Yes, that's right. Thanks,
Kirsty.
Michelle. I'll just share my screen. Okay, so hopefully you can see my slides on the side there. Yep. Firstly, I just want to say thank you to those presenters that have come before me, and I know we're yet to have another one, but how fantastic. And I agree, we could have listened to you for longer, Andrea and Auntie Mary and Kylie and Reese and team. I think your work has a lot of connection to the work that our team has been doing, so it'll be fantastic to kind of integrate that and follow on from you. So I better introduce myself. My name's Kirsty Van Grinsman. I'm a non-Indigenous lecturer in podiatric medicine, and I'm representing our team presentation titled The Power of Reciprocity in Cultural Learning. We are excited to share our experiences with you today. So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the traditional owners and custodians of country where we live, work and learn together. I pay respect to all First Nations elders, past, present and emerging, extending respect to all First Nations colleagues here today. I'm on beautiful Wiradjuri country in Albury. I show gratitude to First Nations Australians for their strength and resilience in continually guiding us, sharing their rich culture, knowledges and perspectives. And may we take the time to meet with reciprocity, open our ears and listen and learn, respectfully build ongoing relationships to live well together in this place that we call home. So this presentation showcases an impactful initiative addressing regional inequities through intercultural learning and co-design teaching practices over time. Our team consists of Linda Ball, proud Kamilaroi woman, midwife, child and family health nurse at Albury-Wodonga Aboriginal Health Service. And for the purpose of this presentation, we'll refer to this service as AWARS. Linda joined our team this year as our subject assessment marker. And Kate Melville, non-Indigenous AWARS podiatrist, and Charles Sturt, clinical educator of podiatry students at our local Westside Community Centre, continued this work for a second year running. I'd also like to acknowledge contributions of our valued previous team members and thank them for their continual support. Rebecca Willis, Wonnarua AWARS nurse, and Associate Professor Caroline Robinson, non-Indigenous course director of podiatric medicine at Charles Sturt University. So we acknowledge that our work together is continually guided by the work of others in this space, in particular the AWARS team, the Charles Sturt Goulet team, the Indigenous Board of Studies, the Yinyamara Winagana Community of Practice, and local First Nations elders and community members. So our team reflected on the learning initiative that we created in 2023 for students studying the subject Pod 318 Podiatry for Chronic Disease Management. And this scaffolded learning experience began with classroom activities, establishing standpoints and then evaluating the National Cultural Safety Framework. And this was then followed with an authentic place-based yarning experience at AWARS and then an online debrief session. And from this learning, the students then developed 2 assessment pieces, both of which were marked by our First Nations marker. So a written reflection and then a health educational infographic poster, several of which you can see on the slide today. They're amazing. Student feedback of this initiative identified their realisations of the ongoing challenges impacting First Nations peoples regionally, and they openly expressed wanting to revisit AWARS to share all that they'd learned from their first visit and how their perspectives had shifted. So reimagination of our learning and teaching was necessary, where reciprocity and community collaboration would drive our innovation in pedagogy. So aligning with Charles Sturt University's First Nations strategy and through community consultation, this year we scaffolded an additional visit to AWARS into the subject redesign. Continuing with country and community at its core, this supplementary authentic place-based learning enabled students a further opportunity to deepen their engagement with relational practice as part of their cultural learning journey. Our students visited AWARS for this second time to facilitate live presentations of their infographic posters with the professional community as guest speakers at the monthly clinical team meeting. And they first-handedly experienced reciprocity through sharing those newly developed understandings. The students' value and engagement with this learning initiative is outstanding, with this year's subject experience survey receiving over 98% positive response. Third year podiatric medicine students, Luan, Molly, Claudia, Tom and Asim, now discuss how this learning experience impacted their professional practice.
I think actually being there in the flesh and seeing the team, visualising their roles, seeing what they do, hearing about what they do, I think that was also a big eye-opener compared to just learning about it in the classroom.
It helped me to deepen understanding what holistic care is about, and then it integrated into using the culture context and put it into practice, where clinicians kind of need to show respect and genuine engagement with the patient, and then they're honouring the patient identities.
For them, it can be very hard to reach out and go into mainstream services, so trying to make them feel as comfortable and building that rapport is above all the most important thing you can do. Also help with that generational trauma that they've struggled with for a very long time.
Having the confidence to maybe ask someone how they want to be addressed, that has been a really big learning curve. Learning about the differences in what body language can mean to First Nations people and what's respectful, what's not considered respectful, things that I didn't think about before I went on this experience.
When they feel ready that they want to tell their story, I think let them, rather than trying to keep asking them. I think it's always good to get them when they're ready to do it.
Learning and understanding that everyone's had different experiences with healthcare professionals, so if someone doesn't want to speak to you, learning and gaining trust is the biggest component.
Or being more patient with my colleagues as well, because working in that sort of environment where people have been dealing with complex health, also giving a lot of compassionate care to patients create a lot of burnout sometimes.
Opens up your eyes to, well, what I learned as a kid wasn't actually maybe the best thing, and you can create your own identity as a person as well as a clinician.
So now we'll listen as team members Linda and Kate share their assessment of the specific knowledge and behavioural shifts they have observed in these students since undertaking this learning.
It is a beautiful place. We are really lucky to work here. And what we do is different from mainstream, and to have a mainstream person acknowledge that uniqueness.
There was a huge jump of understanding of knowledge, and I could see that they felt comfortable that they can open up and talk about it. I feel okay because we have somebody there that's a podiatry student that knows the health service, knows the people and understands our culture, our background, the things that we've had in our past, and can understand that, going into a place like that can be really difficult for the Aboriginal client going in there, but also for the student, because it's like, okay, yep, I know these people, I understand, and I can work with them in a way that's, I don't have to worry about offending somebody because I have some understanding, I have some knowledge.
For me, the best thing that's come from those students' trips to AWAS has been that they've realised that patients are people. There's lots of things affecting those people. And I can see that they've taken it into consideration with the way they're practicing. The way they're doing things at Westside now is far better than it was prior to them coming to AWAS, and it's heartwarming.
So this initiative promotes decolonising practices in higher education, contributing to long-term systemic change in student and institutional approaches. Through promotion of inclusion and connectivity, it values First Nations perspectives in learning and teaching by collaborating with community to co-design from the beginning. Embedding more interactive and immersive cultural learning experiences challenges traditional westernised teaching methods. And furthermore, this type of learning models and fosters culturally safe spaces whilst developing skills in relational confidence using reciprocity. This equalisation of power dynamics of students, professionals and teachers highlights situationally that we are in fact all learners. Linda shares her insights on how our initiative could serve as a model for other disciplines, outlining what makes it uniquely radical compared to standard learning practices.
The way I see it, it's an extra part of your education. You can't get this from a textbook. You can't read this from what somebody's written that's gone and researched culture, or they've had their own experience in a culture, where you don't get that opportunity at other places to come and do this. And I think it's other disciplines really need to do it. Ours is a circle, and you've got all the different workers and practitioners sitting there talking about how they feel working at AWARS, what they're getting from it, and what they hope to impart, what the changes we want to make going forward. Yeah, an understanding of that is, and it's an amazing, I think, jump forward for when they become practitioners, to be able to not just sort of go, okay, I'm finished, I'm going to go and get a job in the city, to reach out and travel and see more of Australia and go to those remote areas, but feel like they are justified in applying for those positions there, that they're not going in there falsely, and yeah, they have some knowledge, they have some understanding of us as a people and our culture. They're able to gather that knowledge and form their own ideas before they get out into all these workplaces and told this is how it is, and they can actually learn beforehand and make their own opinions.
So we hope in sharing our initiative, you too can reimagine how reciprocity, community collaboration, authentic place-based learning can innovate your teaching practice. Our team welcome any questions at the end of our presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirsty. How wonderful to hear from your students. Thank you. Okay, Chelsea.
Okay, I'm just going to share.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Just need to share my sound as well. Rightio. Everyone see the screen okay? It's all right. Rightio, thank you. My goodness, what great presentations. Yeah, this I feel a little bit inadequate coming being the fourth one, but I feel like yeah, all our presentations are complementing each other and saying the same but just a little bit differently. So hello and welcome to this presentation exploring the impact of the Connecting to Country cultural immersion experience on allied health students in the Lachlan area of New South Wales. I am Chelsea Lander and my colleague Louise French is also online with us today.
Inji Nindo, Inji Nato, Inji Nindogi. Respect to you, respect to me, respect to everybody. Yina galambo gibe bangbo, gombana don ninelgi, rajurigo, not a mango. Rajuri mangadang, nilgi nini. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to Rajuri country. Rajuri people are happy that you all here have come. Mandanguwo, thank you.
Our presentation today will share the significance of engaging health students in a cultural immersion experience alongside local Wiradjuri elders whilst on work placement in Parkes and Forbes, located in central West New South Wales. We would like to acknowledge Uncle Jeff Anderson, who we work with on this program and who also provided the welcome on the video just now. We work closely with Jeff and are guided by his knowledge and passion for Wiradjuri language and culture. We would also like to acknowledge Uncle Rob Clegg, who created the artwork used in this presentation. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of the program, we would like to provide some background on Three Rivers Department of Rural Health and where our immersion program takes place. Three Rivers Department of Rural Health is a key initiative of the Australian Government under the Rural Health Multidisciplinary Training Program. The overall objective of Three Rivers is to improve the recruitment and retention of nursing, allied health, dentistry and paramedicine students in rural and remote Australia. The Three Rivers footprint covers a large part of southern, central and western New South Wales, and in 2022, Three Rivers received further funding to extend this footprint into the Forbes, Parkes and Lachlan local government areas, now commonly referred to as the Lachlan expansion area, all of which are MM4 and MM5 classification. Louise and I are clinical educators with occupational therapy and social work backgrounds, respectively. And since the commencement of the Lachlan expansion, we have facilitated student placements across the townships of Parkes, Forbes, Condobolin and Peak Hill, with a number of organisations, including early childhood, disability, health and education service providers. The Connecting to Country cultural immersion activity is based on the Look, Listen, Learn and Teach framework, shared from local First Nations perspectives. This provides allied health students on work placement with an authentic and experiential learning experience, which integrates and extends student understanding of culturally responsive practice beyond standard classroom lectures and texts. This model also aligns with Charles Sturt University's First Nations curriculum and privileging elders' voices as a teaching practice. Students are challenged to engage their own biases and assumptions throughout the immersion and afterwards through critical self-reflection. The Connecting to Country experience, introduced in 2023, is embedded as a practice of respectful connection and partnership with local elders. The immersion is scheduled early in the placement, and in preparation, students are furnished with broader and discipline-specific literature to support them to reflect and identify where they are currently situated on their own cultural journey. The 2-hour experiential walk on country provides a unique insight to the local Wiradjuri culture and the historical and contemporary issues faced by Australian First Nations peoples. To date, we have had 25 students complete the program from the disciplines of speech pathology, occupational therapy, and pharmacy. Students have been accompanied by 4 host organisation staff and 4 clinical educators from Three Rivers Department of Rural Health. We believe the physicality of being on country supports a deeper connection for students, linking the impact of past experiences on contemporary First Nations peoples and communities and how this relates to their practice as a future health professional. Some of the reflections from students thus far include being able to listen, reflect, and develop partnerships will ensure we are decolonising our practice and appropriately supporting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander families. This morning's cultural immersion was enlightening, fascinating, and thought-provoking. It was quite emotional thinking about the people that came before and what they experienced. I feel as though I learned so much about the culture and practices and history of the Wiradjuri people and will view the land in a very different way going forward. We think these reflections demonstrate that participants are often moved by the stories which highlight the injustices of the past and are enlightened by the special connection Indigenous people have with the land. And whilst these learnings are enlightening and build cultural awareness, we believe that without facilitated critical self-reflection and learning about one's own culture, positioning, worldviews and biases, the immersion activity is at risk of conforming with the traditional teachings and frameworks of the dominant culture. So in summary, the Connecting to Country supports Suarez, Balcazar and Rodakowski, who suggest that developing personal cultural responsiveness is a learning process that is ongoing and dynamic. It is also not an end state, but an ongoing contextual, developmental and experiential process of personal growth. And whilst cultural responsiveness is a lifelong journey, there is also agreement that aspects of cultural responsiveness should be addressed early in the education of healthcare professionals. Much like the river in the picture above, we see cultural competence as a continuum of learning and change. Therefore, we are planning to further extend the reflection component of the Connection to Country to facilitate a deeper critical self-reflection from the student in relation to their own process of personal cultural growth. As clinical educators, we will continue to be guided by the Look, Listen, Learn and Teach framework in collaboration with our local elders. And our challenge to you all today is to consider how you could apply this to student learning in your own industry. So we thank you for listening, and we also welcome any questions that anyone has. Thanks.
Thank you, Chelsea. Challenge accepted. There's been lots of wonderful provocations in this session. Thank you to all our presenters for this session, Lisa and Michelle, Andrea, Arnie Mary, and Kylie and Reese, Kirsty and Chelsea. We have got some time for questions. I'll hand it over to you. I have just put into the chat there the link for the final session today, where Koshila will close CSEdX, and that will be at 12:45. So we do need to finish our session at that time so everyone can get to the close. Questions, if you have any questions, sorry, I had my timer going as well. If you have any questions, please unmute and ask your questions. I've got some questions. Andrea and Reese and Kylie and Arnie Mary. Reese, you mentioned that we have got a bit of time now, and we did have to fast forward through those last bits of presentation that you were going to give during your presentation there. Did you want to spend a few minutes talking now to summarise any of that, Reese, or would you like us to ask a question?
I'm more than happy to summarize a little bit, and if people have any questions that pop up or anything's kind of reignites in your brain, feel free to jump in and ask anything. This is a open forum, so more than happy to have a yarn about anything that people feel is relevant. So where we got to is essentially the findings of the non-Aboriginal staff, our Aboriginal staff and our elders, and kind of we really wanted to separate that and then be able to bring it together to then discuss challenges, which is really important, not to, I guess, get stuck in the challenges, but to use them as opportunities to improve the way we do this moving forward. So one of the challenges was balancing CSU's very process-driven environment with our elders and our community's ways of doing things, which will probably resonate with a lot of people. We do work in a really, really big colonial institution, and although we've made amazing steps, there's still a long path to go in terms of how we find that balance of ensuring we meet our responsibilities of the institution, but also meet the responsibilities and obligations that we have to community and our elders. Time being the hardest resource that we have to kind of contend with and try and hold on to as academics or educators. It's no different for our elders, and time is always the hardest thing to come by when it comes to planning these engagements and making sure that we really put in that time at the start to ensure that we are in the same space in terms of outcome and what we'd like our students to kind of walk away from a class with that they didn't have before that. And as Kylie mentioned, it is different because our elders teach in a way that does plant seeds. They might teach you something that you need to go and sit with for 2, 3, 5, 10 years before it really comes to fruition, and that knowledge is kind of grows into a plant, to use that metaphor. There are a lot of intangible things that Kylie mentioned as well that kind of happen when one of our elders, one of those people that has spent their life lifting their community, there are a lot of intangible things that can be pretty hard to kind of measure. Academia is catching up to that slowly, very slowly, but we really need to kind of give power and weight to what our elders bring that aren't necessarily kind of easily measurable by the Western academy, So really thinking beyond what we're used to and beyond where we've come from as a predominantly Western institution. In terms of moving forward, which is the most exciting thing for me, our priorities are inviting our elders into our teaching space with a lot of preparation, and that's a joint process. We are guided by our elders and our old people, and their responsibilities and obligations to community. We would really love to move into country, really break out of that classroom, which is resource intensive, but it's an investment that I think we really need to make as an institution to continue showing that we're serious about that investment. That we believe this is an opportunity for plenty of other disciplines to potentially engage with. It's not just for us. You don't need to just have Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students to believe this is important. Our ways of knowing, being, doing, learning, teaching are for everyone. They belong to the country, not to us as individuals, and we're all in this country and in this country. We need to think about what's our responsibility in advocating for really good succession planning, because it is a big risk and a big worry for a lot of communities where our elders are getting older. I lost my grandmother last year. What do we do to ensure that we pass on that knowledge and that there are future generations coming through? We can't just put that responsibility onto communities. We have a responsibility as an educational institution, especially in Wiradjuri country where we're predominantly based. We need to address data sovereignty moving forward and understand what that means to us and our work. We know that's a big issue for universities. We need to make sure that we're opening the gate to knowledge, not keeping the gate and closing the gate to knowledge, which again, traditionally, universities have had a big part in. We know that's changing as well, and that's really important for us moving forward. And that we also look at how we involve our elders in the online space. We know there's been big shifts in that area, and the online space can be very tricky for a lot of our mob, not just elders, but for everyone. So where can we utilize our kind of in-person campuses, our sites, to really bring our elders in, just like Andrea did with Auntie Mary, to bring them into that space and make it a more inviting and comfortable space for our elders. Are there any questions based on all that? I tried to be really fast because it's already 12:41. So thanks for allowing me to kind of finish.
Oh, that was great, Reece. Can I just say something? For me, that little bit on that, what I just did, that presented on that slide, it was so hard for me as an elder to be able to be quick like that and condense what my beliefs and my values are, you know? So it's all about that yarning and those conversations where we come together. And me growing up as a young one, I never thought that I, as a person, would be walking in to a university. You know what I mean? And then I said, like, with all these young ones that are coming through and taking up their callings to do that, it makes me so proud as an elder in my community to know that our future is going to be in great hands when I'm going to the dream.
Thanks,
you know, so
Auntie Mary.
it's very important work that we are doing. And you are right that we need to open the buildings and the universities, because long before all these were built here, always was and always will be Aboriginal land, and always will be the seeing, the doing and the being, you know, a way of life that we've done for thousands and thousands of years. For what's good for us and our crew to learn, it's good for everybody to learn, you know. And Australia's got a black history, and it's not just our history, it's everybody's history. And all those true learnings that we get, you can't be the oldest living culture in the world without teaching and knowing and learning something from it. That's my little soapbox now. So thank you very much, Reece.
I wish we could give you the soapbox for a couple of hours, Auntie Mary, because it is exactly right. People are aware of the irony that we need time and space and resource and all of that stuff to have these yarns in the proper way. You know, unfortunately, this is one of those spaces where we are governed by the big boss, as my old people have taught me, the clock. That's the big boss, always being told what to do by the clock. So, but it's 100% right. And, you know, it makes me proud. I'm relatively new to CSU. I'm from a small Aboriginal community on the mid-north coast, and it makes me very proud to be here and know and see the leadership that is behind elevating and putting our ways of knowing, being, doing, learning and teaching at the forefront. So it makes me proud as an Aboriginal man, as a black fellow engaging in this space that's worked my whole life to see this stuff come into fruition. So thank you, Auntie Mary, and thank you to all the others that have presented too, that are doing work in this space. You know, for us, it's not work, it's our life. And I know everyone here appreciates that journey for us and is coming along with us. So thank you.
Doing such a great job, eh?
Thank you very much, Reece. Your challenges there, you identified, I think, big challenges, right? And a lot of the time we're scared of those big challenges, or we don't have time to deal with those big challenges. But you've definitely showed us today that it can be done. You're leading the way. And I think that that's really inspiring, and I've taken away lots of inspiration of how we might be able to do that and hook up. I note that, you know, we have been having to keep to time today, and maybe this is some feedback for next year, that we could possibly look at some different formats for sessions that aren't really attuned to the clock. Some formats that might be a bit more free-flowing in conversation. So that might be my feedback. Here you go. What a segue, folks. We'd like to hear your feedback with, there's a QR code here that we would love to hear some feedback from. Thank you to everybody, all the presenters today. And I guess if you've got any questions of anyone that presented, please reach out directly. It's time to head over to Kosheila's closing of CSEdX. It's been wonderful spending time and listening to you in this session. Thanks very much, folks.
Thanks, Michelle, for facilitating.
Thanks everyone for joining.